Aaron Lewis from Liberty Brett Norfleet here with Tommy Lepore here from Hello everyone, welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for another edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball, Game7Baseball.com. We had a great run here over the World Series with Game 7 Baseball, had some fun. We were talking with Dave Penning this week. If you didn't get a chance, go check out the tournament wrap-up show, the Ron Walker Classic or Memorial Tournament, remembering Ron Walker, who was a coach in the community. He did a lot of umpiring working with Game 7, and he passed away from a car accident last year, and they're starting the Ron Walker Memorial Tournament. His mother was out there giving away trophies and stuff. It's a cool watch. Dave talked about that, so make sure you go check that out. Guys, how we doing? I got Kevin Moulder, Coach Perkins, with us today. How we doing, gentlemen?
Doing well, thanks.
Doing great.
Getting ready for the Future Games. Coach Perkins is going to be having the 2024 team. You also have the Junior Future Games starting as well. The schedule is out, Coach.
Yeah, doesn't look easy.
It's not supposed to be, right?
That's why we're there.
Kevin, you were making mention as we started here, the Carolinas. And that's what you said, they combine these two. I just don't think that's fair.
It's one of the loaded ones. They'll put North and South Carolinas together and make a Carolinas team, and we're playing Team Nevada to start out, and then Louisiana and the Carolinas. So it's a great opportunity for our guys. I personally love when we get to play some of the traditional baseball powers. It just means there's going to be more schools for our players to play in front of. So it's and we get plenty of exposure as is. But you go to one of these national events, we want to line up and play versus the big boys, and we've gotten to do that the past couple of years. And they set up the schedule intentionally to put stronger teams versus stronger teams. So Team Missouri certainly gets a lot of notoriety, and we've moved a lot of guys on the past couple of years. You go back and look at those rosters, where those kids have ended up and what they've ended up doing. That's why we get put in these games. So it's a great opportunity for our guys, and Coach Perkins gets to figure out how we win some of these games too.
Well, he's got to hit. He's got to score more runs than the other team.
That's usually the way it works, right,
yeah,
Coach?
It is.
Now, when you guys are down there, like Nevada, will you see some of the Pac-12 schools coming because you're playing in Nevada?
For sure. You'll see UCLA, Pepperdine. I mean, all those kinds of schools will come. I mean, you see every Power 5 school around there.
Yeah.
Especially if you got the guy we're talking about, who's really a stud, and that they'll be there.
Mm-hmm. Because I think it bodes well when you're looking at that. You say the Carolinas, you're talking ACC, SEC, between both Louisiana and the Carolinas. And then, as of course, Nevada, those West Coast, Mountain West, I just said it, Pac-12, which may be losing UCLA and USC here.
Yeah.
The
Going
big
to Big
news.
Ten.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I would have never thought that, but that's for another topic. But anyway, come back to, and then, of course, the Missouri schools.
All the money, Brian.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So let's get back. We're going to talk a little bit about some of these players. Is this your final roster now here, Kevin, or are you done, or are you still a couple more?
Very close. Like last year, for example, Jake McCutcheon was on the roster, and then what would be next week for me this year, he committed to Missouri State. and so we made a switch. Obviously, if you're committed, you can't come, and that's the goal. He committed to where he wanted to go to school, so we were fired up for him, and we snagged another player at that time. So it's very close to the final roster, but nothing's set in stone until like a day or two before, typically.
Gotcha. Now you got 19 dudes on here. Is that a number that you like? Do you like more? What is there a number you shoot for?
Yeah, what you shoot for is a balance of positional players, and then we try to cover 21 innings. So if you have a couple two-way guys, you're going to have 9 or 10 POs, and then a two-way guy or two that come in and throw an inning. Like Mason Bennett, for example, is going to play shortstop and throw an inning. Jordan Martin's another two-way guy that'll do both. And then you have your POs like John Paul Sauer, for example, from Jackson, that'll throw a couple innings for us. So you just kind of have to piece it together. Obviously, you don't want to have too many. You don't want to have 7 outfielders, for example. That would be a problem. So you just, there's magic numbers: 4 outfielders, 5 infielders, 2 to 2.5, 3 catchers. It helps if one has some versatility, can go play first base, and then we put it all there, and then Coach P earns his money and gets him in the right place at the right time, and
yeah, like on second.
But that's
base.
the key. It's just balancing it out.
So, Coach, you're looking at that, and you kind of said that before. We were looking at the roster before we started, and there's 8 guys on here that are designated pitchers, and this may not be up to date. This is what I'm looking at here. There may be more, as Kevin alluded to, but that is the key. If you guys are only, let's say he's throwing 2 innings, he's got to be really good in those 2 innings, doesn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. They get ready. Coach Moulder does a real good job of lining out, mapping it out, so they know exactly when they're going to throw. And they usually have, like he said, 2.5 catchers, but catcher goes down with them and gets them loose, and then usually you just take that catcher and roll him in there with that guy because he's seen him. It just makes sense, seeing some of his pitches in the bullpen. But those guys, they know how to prepare themselves, and if you just map it out, that game day, they know when they're going to throw. And usually I don't have to remind them too much because I'll say, how long does it take you? Some guys say it'll take me 15 pitches. Other guys say it'll take me half an hour. So it depends on the dude and what he needs. And as long as I understand what they're doing and to get ready, they'll have time to do it. That's what we're after.
Gotcha. So that's an interesting thought process because you're playing 9, right? Correct? It's
we play 9 or 7.
There's 7. They're actually 7-inning games.
I'm sorry, roster-wise, it's play 9, bat 9.
Oh
right?
Yeah, you play 9 in the field. We will bat our whole lineup, so we have 12 positional players. We'll bat a straight 12.
So these games are a little different in that respect, correct? As far you got 12 dudes, they all get to hit. Usually, you can get an EH in some of these big tournaments, in high school and things like that. But
we're not limited to that.
You're not limited. So that's interesting. So guys are still getting their at-bats every game in that respect.
Right. And then what they'll do is they'll switch in and out on their own. If a guy sits 1 inning, he's not going to sit the next inning. He'll go out there and tap somebody out or whatever you want to call it. And they take turns and make sure you don't sit 2 innings in a row. That's basically what happens, and they'll move themselves around.
So it's a basically free substitution type thing?
Yeah.
Yes, and that's like what we're talking about. We want to win the game, but it's not a win at all cost. You don't sit someone, you don't pinch hit for guys. It is a showcase setting in that regard, but within those parameters, you're playing to win.
Right, I get you. So that's I didn't know that. This is the first time I'd really had the chance just to ask those questions. It was just curious because it's 3 games. There's nothing moves on before that. You're in your pool, you play your pool, and that's that, correct?
That's it. And then go home.
And then you go.
Or go on vacation.
Yeah. With the juniors, it's completely different. It is you're playing to win. And again, you're playing to win the older guys, but you are coaching, managing to win, and you do go on and you can win the championships. Two different style of events.
Yeah, there's pool play and bracket play for the juniors.
Yeah.
Like I said before, we really get a chance to watch a lot of those games, and I enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, you look at I just think it's an interesting thought process, because some of these other, you go down, we're talking about with PBR and PG and all the stuff, you go down to some of these other tournaments, they're showcase tournaments, but there's also, it's pool play to bracket play to championships. This is initially, I think in any competitive situation, you should want to win. That's just, you want the result to have more runs than the other team at the end of the game. Okay.
Yeah. And the kids we got are competitive. They're going to try and win. You know that for sure. I was going to say something about what Kevin probably does. And if we got a guy that somebody's interested in and he puts the information out, the college guys know exactly when they're throwing. So you'll see guys move in and out because they're running over to another complex or running over to the other quad and to catch the guys. So they're mapping out their game plan as far as seeing guys they need to get seen. So there'll be a lot of moving in and out.
So will pitchers
they dictate it most times.
Will they pitch multiple days as well or
No.
just one day?
Just one day.
Typically just one day.
Gotcha.
Unless something happens, an unforeseen circumstance, like we have the Jordan Martin infielder. He might throw the first day if something. A pitcher decided I can't go back out on Saturday for my second inning. You could bump a guy like that in, but typically the plan is to throw one appearance.
One appearance. Gotcha. So let's take a look at some of these. We talked about some players earlier. We're looking at, this is 2024 players, correct?
Mm-hmm.
These are kids that are not committed, but wow, I think there's some really, we've seen it, talent. We've talked about it through the high school season. Coach, you've seen these kids firsthand in the GAC, Kevin. You've traveled around, seen some of these kids on the other side of the state, from the Kansas City area, Springfield. There's let's talk about Brady Kellenbrink. We saw him. He's a left-handed pitcher, big 6'3" kid. What stands out on this young man?
Well, he's left-handed, so everyone likes lefties. He's can run it up into the upper 80s. He doesn't necessarily pitch upper 80s, but he can get it into the upper 80s. He's got a really good feel for the breaking ball. He's a strong physical kid, can spin, or he has a good feel for the changeup, and he can also spin a breaking ball. He's got a chance to be a Power 5 or very high-end Division I arm. In fact, he already has some of those type offers. You get a 6'2" lefty, that's going to attract attention.
Then on the other side of that, I think a couple of names that you've talked about a lot, and one that you talked about through the high school season, John Paul Sauer out of Jackson, right-handed pitcher. Talk about Jackson, or Sauer, excuse me.
John P. Sauer, I like him a lot. He was the ace of the Jackson team. We talked about that group all spring. Saw him beat CBC 1-0. Physical right-hander, 6'2" or so, really sinks it. Has a kind of that natural sinking fastball, pounds the zone with that. Has a plus changeup. So he really lives off that hard sinking fastball at 88, 90, maybe touching 91. A lot of times what's neat about the future games, you'll see a kid PR down there. So, they typically only throw about 2 innings, so they'll let it loose. So sometimes you'll see a kid bump a 92 for the first time or whatnot. So John Paul Sauer is going to be one of the top arms for Team Missouri, and he will start one of the games. We haven't kind of set all the rotations up yet, but he's one of the main arms on the ball club.
Coach, there's a young man here. I don't know if you saw. I know you played Dalton Hosack. Did you see him? Did he pitch against you guys this year?
I think
for
so.
Holt?
Yeah. Yep.
Let's talk a little, and I'm going pitchers pretty much here because he had a really good year, another left-handed pitcher. Talk about him a little bit there, Kevin.
Dalton is an out-getter. I've known of Dalton for a while, but he really caught my eye. He pitched the game of the week for us against Zumwalt West, and he had Zumwalt West beat. As you recall, he threw it was either 5 or 6 shutout innings. They took him out, and Zumwalt West came back and won the game in the last inning. 3 bunt hits, or 3 bunts, Coach Perkins special. And they ended up losing the game, but Dalton threw a great game, and obviously Zumwalt West was one of the better teams in the area. Just an out-getter, competes. He's also a quarterback on the football team. He's a mid-80s lefty, but has a real good feel for the breaking ball and just a good presence about him.
We're going to get to a couple of position players here that I think is very interesting. And Coach Perkins, this young man, Lucas Wilson, you've known his dad, and he's the head coach at Staley. Mm-hmm. So you've known Dave Wilson a long time. It's not a mystery that this young man is playing at the level he is.
No doubt. Dave Wilson is just one of the best baseball guys around. He's on the MISHA advisory board right now trying to get some things changed. But you can't help but be a baseball player if your dad's that kind of a guy, because he grew up with it, and he is just a scrappy dude, man. He just gets it done, and he got some time as a freshman on the team, on the varsity team at Staley, and love to have him. And I like what you said about him the other day. Kev said he has a short game too. He can bunt for hits, and that's great. I don't know that he'll bunt in this down there, but
right.
he may. But you never know. He's just a ball player, man. He's just one. If I tell a coach that he's a dirtbag, that's quite a compliment, and a lot of coaches want that kind of kid, and that he'll get offered after this thing.
I think it's interesting, and your sons, ball players. Here we're talking about a coach's son. There's something unique in that when you have a player like that on a team, and what changes when you're dealing as a coach and you have a coach's son. How does that help you? How does that better the team as a group?
It's like having another assistant coach. I mean, because they know what to expect. You know what's coming up. You know what's going on. Balls need to go here, balls need to go there. I mean, just little things that go on. If there's and the pulse of the team, you understand it a little bit more too, because you're eating dinner with that kid, your son, and saying, hey, what's going on, and my sons were really honest with me and tell me what's going on, and worked out pretty good. We had some nice runs, and Wilson's going to do the same thing with his.
Very good. You've seen Lucas Wilson play. You got him. You invited him here. Talk a little bit about this young man, Kevin.
Yeah, echoing everything Coach Perkins said. He can play multiple positions. He can play shortstop. He can absolutely play second. He's a leadoff type hitter, kind of your classic prototype. But he's got a little thump in the bat too. I've seen him hit a couple balls off the wall this spring. So it's not like he's a slap hitter by any stretch of the imagination. He can hit a double. He can hit a triple. He'll lay down a bunt for you. He'll steal a base. He is a hard-nosed, old-school throwback type player and kid. And, he's going to be an exciting player to have down at this event.
There's this other young man that we're talking about, outfielders, that first time I saw him was at the event at Maryville. Looking forward to hopefully getting him on a player spotlight this fall and winter. But Brady Piccarelli, I think he just looks exciting to watch. The speed, the athleticism, just in what I saw, how he moves around the field. He tracks the baseball very well. And there's some of those guys that just look like they kind of glide everywhere, right? It doesn't look like there's much effort to it. Mm-hmm. And that's this kid, correct, Kevin?
Yeah, he's a big kid, a big, strong kid, but moves well for his size. You're kind of describing like what you were talking about, like Dylan Carlson. He's a bigger guy, but he can get to some places. And I'm not comparing Brady Piccarelli to Dylan Carlson, but a bigger guy that can move and looks athletic, and Brady has those attributes. And what I like most is he can swing the bat. And he can drive the ball out of the ball yard, and he can do some multiple different things. He's not a one-dimensional guy. He can run, he can handle the bat, he can drive the baseball. So he's going to be one of the top bats that's going to catch some attention. Already has caught attention. He's sitting on a couple offers, so it'll be fun to see him down there that week.
When you're talking about players like this, Coach, when you're going down there and you start looking at a player like this, when scouts start talking about tools, are they looking at these players that way, or how is that process start working when you have a list of guys like this and you're starting to try and look at recruiting to fill holes?
Yeah, I mean, they understand. I mean, the skills contest takes care of a lot of that stuff, I think, when they do that on Wednesday. I mean, you're going to get timed in your 60, you're going to do exit velos, and there's a lot of those tangible numbers that the coaches like will happen on Wednesday. And if somebody sticks out, like, the guys that run the fastest, they're going to stay, the best 60 times, guys will come watch them play a game next time, to see if he's got some tools besides.
How does that translate on the field, right?
Right, because you can't replace speed, and everybody wants speed. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think that's a big reason that guys come around and start watching games, because they know the kid can run, can he hit, and can he throw? I mean, those are the questions that they'll get answered.
Jackson Carter. There will be schools that have no clue who Jackson Carter is, and he's going to come to our workout day on Wednesday, and he's going to run a 6'4", whatever, or maybe he even gets a PR and runs a high 6'3". But there's a kid on record has run a 6'4" on lasers. South Carolina or LSU or someone is going to say, Louisiana's playing Team Missouri. They're going to watch him. And what happens from there, we'll see. But that's the type of stuff Coach talking about. They're going to glance, all right, who ran a 6'6" or better, and they'll star them, and they'll make sure they see that kid. And then they'll say, all right, he can hit, he could really play short, he could play center, or he's just not quite there for this level or whatever. But that's how you catch some attention, is on the workout day, whether that's the exit velo. There'll be a kid down there that hits 107 miles per hour or whatever, and there'll be a couple kids that throw 90 whatever from the outfield or infield, or like a ridiculous pop. That's when you kind of make your marks up, and they'll go to teams because they'll be going on at once. But it's on a quad, so it's easy to watch, and they'll bounce around and make sure to catch all the kids that kind of caught their eye.
I think that's the interesting part of this when you talk about, Kevin, the showcase part of it. We wonder why hitting off tee. If you can break 90 plus exit velo off a tee, that's pretty good, right?
Yeah. High 90s is better.
Yes.
Do what?
High 90s is better.
Well, sure, always. But is most of that done off a tee, or are they doing like toss? Is there BP with the exit velo, or is it off a tee at these workouts?
This will all their hitting data will come from BP and the TrackMan. So we'll have BP and we'll have the TrackMan hooked up, and so the coaches will know, exit velo, the degree in which they hit the baseball. We'll have ball flight, how far they hit it, etc. Blast motion data tells hand speed and attack angle and all sorts of crazy stuff. So they really pick these kids apart.
It is pretty high tech. It's above my pay grade, but I enjoy looking at it. It's like, wow, trajectory, spin rate on fastballs. I mean, all this kind of stuff we're talking about. I mean, there's so much data. It's like, man, I just want to just look at the kid and say, I know he can hit.
Yeah.
Well, we're hoping we got one more week before all this comes up. Kevin, talk about a player and in your view, you've been inviting these kids. What's a player here that stands out that you believe can go here and really put himself on the map?
Well, a lot of these kids are already on the map, like the ones we've talked about already or have plenty of exposure. One that I'll pick out that I do feel like might be flying under the radar, that I think this is going to be a bigger event for him than even some others, is Eric Williams at Zumwalt East. I did not know who Eric Williams was until we covered him this spring during the game of the week, and it's hard to ignore when a kid just hits double after double after double. Eventually, he needs to pay attention. You track him over the course of the season, and he hits well over 400 as a sophomore on a team that makes the Final Four. And, so he's getting an opportunity to come down basically on the strength on his strong spring. And then he came to an event, actually came to a couple of events this summer, and we got him on the track. And I'm like, okay, the data matches up with, I get 400. He's hitting the ball, consistently driving the ball at 15 to 20 degrees, which is like an elevated line drive. So it makes sense, and so we invited him down here, and it's going to be a great opportunity. I'm super excited to see Eric Williams. I'm super excited to see Jackson Carter too, because the speed does not lie. So it's just going to be how he translates. Hey, he can really run. Now, can he do it versus these big arms? He's a kid that doesn't need to hit 3 homers down here. He needs to stay in his game, put balls in play, and put pressure on people, and people are going to take notice of that.
I like the thought process of this, because we're talking about players that, Coach, you've seen this throughout your career, from high school to summer ball. What do kids need to work on, and why? These things are here in the culture of baseball today. Mm-hmm. It gives an opportunity for people to see you as a player. How does talent? And I think this is the one thing that I think about personally. So I'll throw my opinion out here.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, you don't have the crystal ball.
No.
Where you can see what the kid's going to be like in 2 years. I mean, and a lot of guys are just taking chances, I think, big schools, when they start, offering ninth graders and things like that. I mean, who knows what that kid's going to be like in 3 or 4 years? Is he going to be better, or is he just kind of, leveled off? Is he lifting? Is he getting stronger? How's the body looking? Is it, is he faster? I mean, those are all tangible things that, they have to measure and see. And like I said, they'll go with the fast guys first, and then they'll go from hitters after that, probably. That's my opinion, but.
Yeah.
Well, because as we say, in one respect, I understand that there are smaller guys, that may not be as strong as a bigger, but you can still get stronger. Even as a small guy, you can still get stronger. You can't. It's very hard to, if you're running 7.5, to run a 6.4. Mm-hmm. Right? That
you can improve. There's a lot of training for that too nowadays. Specific training places that you go to increase your speed. And if you get dedicated and do what you're supposed to do, you can drop those times. There's no doubt about that. Same thing with the strength. I mean, I had camp going on this week, and I was going around Brett Norfleet and Brady Wilson, some of those guys, just grabbing their biceps. I'm like, okay, see where you're at. Of course, they say, well, I got to go lift after this. I go, okay.
Yeah.
Lift the remote. Oh, no. I think I enjoy this conversation because I think it's interesting, and hopefully, players are watching, kids are watching, younger players are watching, and you take this to heart because at some point, talent always rises to the top of things. The talent is always up here. Well, once the talent pool is even, what is the separator?
Work ethic. There it is, right there. The want to, what they got inside their chest, their heart. And sometimes you can't measure that. That just comes out to play over time, like over a season, and you can figure out this kid got that it factor. Hey, Kev, I wanted to mention something else. There's 5 or 6 Missouri guys on that select team, isn't there?
Yes. So we're fortunate with Missouri. We'll get a decent number of players put on the select team, and it's not necessarily guys that we don't want. In fact, one of the best players coming to the Future Games from the state of Missouri is on the select team, Grant Hollister from Blue Springs South.
Good player.
So there's a variety of different reasons why we put certain guys on the select team, but yeah, we have a good batch of guys coming from Missouri on the select team. Tank Sims, young man out of the Springfield area that can really swing the bat. Chase Porter, Kansas City kid that's a 6'5" runner. Eddie Ahern, catcher from Parkway South. This is a great example. Like the catching class is pretty strong in Missouri. Like there's 5 or 6 kids that I think have a chance, a possibility of being Division I type catchers. But you can't bring 6 kids for Team Missouri to the Future Games to catch because they won't get an opportunity. So you spread it out, and it's not necessarily the 3 best are on Missouri and the other guys are on select. It's, hey, who could play a secondary position as well, and so you kind of mix and match and get the right fits to kind of blend the team. But we're fortunate because we get to bring a couple extra players, and Missouri's been producing a pretty good amount of talent over the past couple of years. So there's people that want the players too. So we combine these guys with Kansas, who's not quite strong enough or have the population enough to have their own team, and then there's a couple, like 2 kids from Idaho. There's a West Virginia kid. There's an extra kid from Georgia because they're ridiculous and they'll have, no one will run out more 90-mile-per-hour arms in the state of Georgia at this event. So we'll pick up some kids along the way and combine them and make a select team, and it's usually one of the really good teams down there, honestly.
He grabbed one of my guys.
Yeah, he's in Pool H.
Adam Shipley.
Yeah, Adam Shipley.
Yeah,
and that's like a situation too where Shipley kind of, I don't want to say popped up because I know Coach Pert, but he's had a strong summer and has come on and so he's on the select team. But if one of them commits over the next 2 weeks, then I can steal him for Team Missouri and we'll add like a Georgia kid or something to select.
Gotcha.
Is kind of how it works.
I'd take him.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would, Coach.
A little bias there.
Because I like this and what you said about talent. Everybody's going here to showcase their talent.
Show off.
Exactly. And I think this is the difficulty in these things, just from my perspective, and I always like to talk about these things because I think it's interesting. I love the fact that we do these things. I do. I think it's great. Opportunity is all you can ask for is opportunity. If I've got an opportunity, now it's on me. And that's where the mindset, and I talked about it last week, the mindset has to be there. And I think that's the X factor in all of this. And I think is the difference in the result you're looking for as far as wins to losses is where's the mindset of the individual. Can they produce from their talent the ability, and that's where the body follows the mind, and talent is a major factor. You have to have talent first because it's always there, but then what can that person do with that talent? How do you bring that talent out? And I think that's the tough thing that these recruiters have to deal with.
Well, it's a stressful situation. I mean, when you look up and you see a couple hundred coaches standing around watching, and it's going to make these kids better. Because
sure.
they will not be in any other kind of situation like they are going to be down in Atlanta, because there's going to be so many coaches there. And if they can compete at a high level in that situation, great. I mean, they're going to get picked up, they're going to get their offers, and they're going to be a great player. But because if you get into a SEC school and you get all them big crowds and whatever else, I mean, if a kid from a small town hits that scene, it's going to be overwhelming sometimes because they haven't been in front of that kind of a crowd. But when you get in front of a crowd of just professional coaches, that's hard. It's very hard. But to experience it, to show out a little bit, and you do well, man, it'll be just a great thing for each and every one of those guys.
Because Kevin, you're coming from that Division I culture, and you got these kids who, I think it's a great point because Jake McCutcheon said this to me before the big game. He said, "Yeah, we don't play in front of these crowds." There was 1,200 people at Francis Howell for that Howell Central game, that quarterfinal.
Yep.
And he goes, "Yeah," he said, it's different. He says, because we don't play in front of crowds like this.
It was a big venue.
Yeah, and it was in his mind. He so
it didn't bother him too much.
No, it didn't. It didn't bother, but it was there in his mind. That's what I mean. It was there in his mind. He just, he's grown a lot. I think from his junior year to his senior year, you saw a maturity in him, and I think playing at this high level in high school prepared him for that thought process.
Well, all the events that Kevin runs prepares him. I mean, the events, all the showcases that he does around the states, and he does that on purpose, so he can cover the whole state with these events. And every event that these kids go to, the next one's easier. The first one's probably the hardest one because they haven't really experienced it, and all of a sudden you're running to 60 and doing all this kind of stuff. But the more you go to it, the better and easier it comes to you. You're going to be doing the same things down in Atlanta. It's the same testing. Right numbers, right?
Absolutely. I honestly almost get reminded of this every time I run an event. There'll typically be a kid or two, sometimes 3 or 4, that I'm looking over and I'm like, oh, this kid's super nervous. And it just, I get so immune to it because I do it all the time, but it's always a good reminder for me. I'm like, okay. And then, so there'll be times when a kid will come take a round of BP and it'll be terrible. And I'll know, like, all right, this kid is not, that is not a reflection of who he is. And I'll say, all right, go over there, take a couple deep breaths. In 2 kids, I want you to hit again. You just need to relax, kid. And he'll come and take a much better round the second time. Some of these kids put so much pressure on themselves, and the more they do things like this, the calmer and I always say it slows down for them. You want it to that's honestly one of the things Coach and I'll be looking for at the Future Games and trying to get the kids just to slow down a little bit because they get so worked up and excited because it is such a big opportunity for them. They're playing for scholarships, and to a high school kid, that's as big a deal as there is. They're trying to figure out where they're going to spend the next 4 years of their lives when they get to go to college. And, it is a really big deal, but you try to convince them that, hey, we're playing baseball. You're not here unless you're really good at anyway. So just go do what you do, and you're going to be fine. Can be easier said than done at times, though.
I think it's so interesting, too, as you bring those things to bear, because you got the culture of the high school to the culture of the events, and they're two different things because some of these kids, you may not know them at all. And not only that, you're standing in line with dudes. How good is that guy? Is he better than me? And you may know some of them. And so you come from a familiar setting to a setting where I don't know anybody here. And I think that works. That can work against them, correct, Kevin?
Yeah, it can go both ways.
I think it's a wake-up call for a lot of them. I mean, they think they're real good. Some if a kid's real cocky, and there's something to say about being cocky. But if you show up and you're looking around and all of a sudden you're middle of the pack, now what do you do with that? Do you start, amping up your workout routine? No matter what level you're at, there's always somebody that's going to be better than you. I mean, that's how you got to live your life, baseball life, because you got to keep on working, because even if you get to a spot, there's always someone behind you working, trying to take your spot, so it's difficult to deal with, but it's a wake-up call for them too.
Sweet. I love this stuff, man. I just love throwing questions and stuff out here and letting you guys talk. This is fun. This is good stuff, and that's what I hope to bring about here. Is here we have two gentlemen that have put their lives into this, guys. You have to understand, they're not talking from, oh, this is a job. No, this is what they do for a living. This is their purpose and how they help young athletes get better. So I hope that people take this stuff and understand what you're getting here. Coach could probably charge us a couple $100 an hour for this. I'm sure Kevin could too.
He should.
I'll take it.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's good advice, folks. So we got one more segment here before you guys are heading out. When do you guys leave for the event, Kevin?
I will leave on Monday. We have our junior future workouts on Tuesday, and then the big guys don't go until Wednesday afternoon.
Very good. Very good. So it's coming up. If people want to watch, they can get on and watch, right? I'm sure it's a pay-per-view, I would imagine.
I believe so. I honestly need to check that out. I believe you can watch through our website or streaming service.
Yeah. If people are interested, right?
And we'll certainly be covering it, through our Twitter and social media. So we always clip highlights and things of that nature as it goes. So it's pretty easy to follow as the event goes.
I'll say this about Kevin. I don't know how he does this, but he gets the home run swing. He gets the strikeout. He gets the diving play in the gap. He gets them on video, and he shoots them out there. He's amazing. He does a great job of it. I love it.
He knows who to watch.
Right.
Yeah.
You see him with his phone up, okay, I better pay attention.
It was funny because I told we got to where towards the end of the season it was better because I had him in front of a pole a couple times a little bit, to the side, and he's like trying to get the phone up, and he's talking on the microphone, and he's recording.
He's always looking.
The game.
He does a great job. I'm telling you, it's great.
So I was trying to, toward the end of the season, make sure he had a better view of what was going on.
And his buddy Andy Urban's just like him, but with that's the most high energy guy I've ever been around. Jeez.
I was about to say he's on a different level energy wise than me.
Oh my gosh, he's funny. Good dude.
He's had like a 6-pack of monsters, like
in
the second he rolls out
minutes.
of bed. I'm like, I don't have that type of energy.
Oh man. Guys, thanks a lot. As always, a lot of fun talking baseball
Welcome.
with these two gentlemen. The folks, if you want to follow Kevin, he's talking about this. Guys, you want to follow some PBR. You want to get involved. If you're a younger player, you want to know where to go. PBR Missouri is on Twitter, and I think it's it's just PBR Missouri, at PBR Missouri. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram there, and there'll be all that stuff up there and whatnot that way. And you can follow How_baseball. Follow Coach P, puts up stuff, talks about baseball. There's a lot of great ways and information. Go to prepbaseballreport.com to catch up on everything that's going on with the junior games and the future junior future games. I'll spit it out here in a minute. It's a good thing I don't get paid for this. and future games. So you can go and watch a ball game. I mean, this is going to be some elite baseball.
Sure will be. It's so fun.
Yeah. So if you want to check it out, younger players, do so. That's what I would suggest. Guys, thanks a lot. We'll see you next week before you take off.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Sweet. Yep. All right. Everybody, have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, keep throwing strikes. We need more strikes, Coach.
Absolutely.
Too many walks.
That's it.
Too many walks. And you hitters,
hit them where they ain't.
I love that guy. We'll see y'all next time.